Okay, so man, I never thought I would sit down and actually talk about this series that came out in the late 1990s, but we technically have to. And the reason why, because it's part of our coverage over the Onslaught event, especially when it comes to phase two. And I am talking about the Green Goblin series. Yes, you heard that right. In the late 1990s, Marvel gave Green Goblin his own series. But here's the thing, because it's not Norman Osborn, and it's definitely not Harry, because Harry's dead at this point in time. It is actually a different Green Goblin. And that would be Phil Urich, the nephew to Ben Urich, who's very close to Daredevil and also, of course, to Peter Parker, but also works at the Daily Bugle. Now, before we dive into the storyline, I kind of want to explain the whole idea of Phil Urich and how he became the Green Goblin in the late 1990s. You see, when it came to Marvel Comics, they gave us Phil Urich in Web of Spider-Man issue number 125. Here's the catch. When he appeared, he was just a Green Goblin. We had no idea who was this new Green Goblin just flying around New York. It wasn't until Green Goblin issue number 1 we learned that it was Phil Urich. Now, in that issue, we did learn that when it came to Phil and Ben, they were investigating something going on at Oscorp Tower, where unfortunately they were attacked by some random thugs. Now, when it came to Phil, he found the Green Goblin gear, but also the formula, and technically he fell into the formula. And so with the gear and also now the formula inside of him, he became the brand new Green Goblin and tried to use the tech as a way to scare away the thugs to protect his uncle. Now, after that, when it came to the Green Goblin series, it was always kind of him deciding like if he wanted to be a hero or not. It wasn't until someone tried to assassinate his uncle, where of course he teamed up with Daredevil and decided like, you know what? It's better for me to be a hero. So for a short period of time, you had a Green Goblin out there just being a hero and working alongside with other characters like Daredevil, Spider-Man, Scarlet Spider, and the list goes on and on. But by this point in his series, he got pulled into the Onslaught crossover. And this is kind of sad because when it came to the Green Goblin series, this is issue number 12. And the series ended with issue number 13. So this is the second to last issue of this series where unfortunately it was canceled. Now, when it came to Phil and Ben, they were in the middle of New York when things just popped off. You had Onslaught just sent out sentinels across New York City. And remember, he had reprogrammed the robots to no longer attack mutants, but to now attack humans. But on top of that, he had released this powerful EMP across the entire city. And so for Phil and also Ben, they're kind of like, okay, things are truly popping off here. Like, what in the world can we do? What should we do? And so you have our two characters head over to the Daily Bugle because for Ben, he works there. It makes the most sense. And when they get back to the Daily Bugle, you have JJ, Robbie, and also Ben being able to talk to one another about what is exactly happening right now in New York City. But while they're talking to one another, it gives us a chance to see some support characters around Phil besides his Uncle Ben. So for example, we have a character known as Meredith Campbell or Lynn Wash. Now these characters, they both work at the Daily Bugle as well. Now you do have Phil also hearing that you have other heroes out there in New York right now just trying their best to help out with this situation. The Avengers, Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and you also have the New Warriors as well. Now for Phil, he kind of feels bad about the idea that he's not out there right now helping out the other heroes. He hates the idea that technically he is stuck on the sideline while all of this is happening across New York. Now that is when you have Robbie Robertson say, you know what, if you feel bad about that, how about this? You can help out here. And so you have Robbie tell Phil to make copies for the Daily Bugle. Now, that is when you have the Daily Bugle get attacked by a Sentinel. Now, with this happening, of course, you have JJ believe that this is Onslaught trying to silence the media. Now, when it comes to field support characters, they want a better view of what exactly happening across New York. And so, even though right now there is this Sentinel attacking their building, they go to rooftop to get a better look of the city, to see what's truly happening across the city. Now, while doing that, you have one of the girls realize the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, they're out there and they're trying to head somewhere to hopefully end this whole conflict. And so once you have Phil also see the Avengers, the Fantastic Four flying across the city, he's kind of like, you know what? It's time for me to go ahead and take my part alongside with the heroes to handle this situation. And so he calls over his Green Goblin gear to go be the Green Goblin hero. And so once you have Phil put on his Green Goblin gear, he does try his best to fight against a Sentinel that's currently attacking the Daily Bugle. Here's the problem though, all his different weapons are not really able to do anything at all when it comes to bringing down this one particular Sentinel. Now, when it comes to Phil Urich, he is a tad bit different from Harry and also Norman Osborn. And let me explain. You see, when it comes to Phil Urich, he also gained ability the other two don't have. Now, he calls this brand new power Lunatic Left, but in reality, it's kind of like this sonic attack. And so he also tries to use that power on this Sentinel. The problem is that it doesn't work. And so you had a Sentinel being able to attack Phil and make him crash in a nearby alley. And this kind of leads into the point of the story where you have Phil kind of wondering like, okay, should he continue as a hero? Because he just failed when it came to fighting against just one particular Sentinel. Like, what in the world can he do when he faces bigger challenges down the road as a hero? And so he begins to think about different people in his life, starting off with his family. Now, for Phil, his entire family, like his mother, father, and his brother, they kind of look down on him. Only his uncle was always in his corner. But he also begins to think about other heroes that he had met. Spider-Man, Scarlet Spider, Daredevil, and the list goes on. And so he kind of realized that, yes, even though he did not ask to be a hero, even though he did not ask to have all these responsibilities as a hero, the mask, the Green Goblin mask, belongs to him. He loves the idea of being a hero. He hates the idea of being a loser. He's not a quitter. And so it's him saying, I got to continue on because I am the Green Goblin. And so this kind of leads into the ending for this particular storyline for Green Goblin, because you do have Phil being able to go back over to the Sentinel and he was able to bring it down, but only because he has sacrificed his glider as a way to damage the head of the Sentinel. Now, the explosion of the Sentinel did send a few debris to kind of hit him in the mask. But of course, his mask is not completely wrecked, but it is somewhat wrecked. And so for Phil, he's kind of wondering, with his glider gone and his mask ruined, can he continue on as the Green Goblin? And so this leads into the final issue of the series, where we're kind of left to wonder, will Phil continue to be a hero as the Green Goblin? Now, this kind of leads into Fantastic Four issue number 416. Now, this was the final issue of volume 1 of the Fantastic Four, because as we all know, when it came to the Onslaught event, you had certain characters go away into a brand new reality, better known as Heroes Reborn. Now, there are also some things happening behind the scenes when it came to Marvel Comics, but I'm not going to sit down and try to explain all of that. But either way, when it came to some characters, they all just disappeared into the Heroes Reborn's universe. And so with that happening, all the books those heroes were a part of, they all got canceled. The Avengers, Iron Man, Thor, the Fantastic Four, they all were canceled at the very end point of the Onslaught crossover. So this was the final issue for volume 1 of the Fantastic Four. And it's kind of cool because this one particular issue is bringing together all the different characters who were very important in Fantastic Four comics, starting off with Doctor Doom. You see, you have Doom right now being informed about what is happening over in New York. Like, hey, you got Sentinels attacking the humans. We believe this guy known as Onslaught is the one controlling the Sentinels. But you didn't have this guy tell Doctor Doom, like, oh, by the way, this Onslaught guy was able to kidnap Franklin Richards. Now, let me tell you, for Doctor Doom, once he heard that one line right there, he's kind of like, hold up, you're going to tell me that guy right there has Franklin Richards, my number one enemy's son? Hold up, I need to go to New York right now. When it comes to Fantastic Four, they're back at their base with a few members of the X-Men and also a few members of the Avengers as well. But here's the thing, because for the Fantastic Four, they're kind of wondering, like, what should they do next? Like, they have tried so many different things to hopefully get Franklin Richards back, but unfortunately, they're not strong enough to bring down a powerful being like Onslaught. But now you also have the team kind of wondering, is there a possibility their son is still alive? Now, you also might see Beast on the screen at the moment, and you're kind of wondering, is this Dark Beast or regular Beast? This is regular Beast. By this point in the Onslaught crossover, you had X-Factor being able to save the real Hank McCoy from the Dark Beast Hank McCoy from the Age of Apocalypse reality. But either way, you also have Nathaniel Richards tell Reed, like, listen, I saw the future, and I know that in your future, you guys are going to die by the hands of Onslaught. Is him saying, like, do not try to go up against that guy. Now, when it comes to Franklin Richards, we see him trying to send out a projection to his parents to kind of tell them, like, hey, I'm alive, but also, like, I need your help at the moment. Now, here's the thing, because for Franklin, he's still deep inside a citadel that belongs to Onslaught. And for Onslaught, he sees what Franklin is trying to do. And so for Franklin, he has no idea that Onslaught had just altered what Franklin was trying to do. Like, yeah, he lets the call go out to reach the Fantastic Four, but he kind of changes the actual purpose of this projection that Franklin was trying to send. Now, the next page for me, I kind of like, and here's the reason why, because it's Susan and Reed having this conversation. And for Susan, she kind of feels like she is a failure. And the reason why, because, well, yeah, Franklin Richards has been taken away from her. Now, for Reed and Susan, they're kind of wondering, like, if the life they chose was the right choice to make, because it was Reed, Susan, Johnny, and Ben who came together to create the Fantastic Four. And the thing is, now Franklin Richards is suffering from their choices to become heroes, to be a hero team out there who protects the world. And so now they're kind of like, what if we never did become the Fantastic Four? Would Franklin Richards suffer from our choices? Now for Reed, his main goal is to get their son back, but to also find a way to live a life where Franklin Richards will not be suffering from their choices. But this begins the part where you have all these different characters just popping up left and right to help out the Fantastic Four. Like, for example, you have the Puppet Master and also Alicia Masters appear. Now, for Alicia Masters, she is the stepdaughter to the Puppet Master. But either way, he came there to help out the Fantastic Four with this situation. Now, for Ben Grimm and Alicia Masters, they were kind of on the rocks here. So we're kind of seeing the two characters being able to have a conversation with one another, with the possibility of the two characters getting back together. But then we have to jump over to Christophe Bernard and also Cassie Lang. Now, Cassie Lang being the daughter of Scott Lang, enough said right there. But for Christophe Bernard, I'm not really going to sit down and try to explain the whole idea of this character. And the reason why, because there is a lot that goes into this character. Just know that there was a point in time where he truly believed that he was Dr. Doom. but in reality, he wasn't Doctor Doom. And once you had the real Doctor Doom return back to Earth, you had Kristoff realize that he wasn't Doctor Doom and left Latveria. And so currently, he's with the Fantastic Four and watching over Cassie Lang. But while doing that, he's then confronted by Kang the Conqueror. Now for Kang the Conqueror, he of course from the future, one of the many futures of the Marvel Universe. But either way, for Kang the Conqueror, he came here to supposedly fight against Doctor Doom, believing that Kristoff is Doctor Doom. But once you have Kristoff being able to get a hit on Kang the Conqueror, he just disappears. And you have Kristoff wondering what in the world is going on. And that kind of trend continues on for our heroes, because when we jump over to Ben Grimm and also Alicia Masters, while they're having this conversation about the idea that Ben Grimm now has the ability to turn back into his human form, they're then confronted by this creature that's currently being controlled by the Psycho Man. Now, we had just recently talked about this character, but I don't want to sit down and explain who the Psycho Man is, and here's the reason why. Because we're going to see a whole lot more of different villains just popping up left and right. Different characters the Fantastic Four fought over the years, including the Psycho Man as well. And that trend continues on when we jump over to the Human Torch and also Lila. Because with these two characters, they're right now trying to fix their relationship. In one of my earlier videos, I kind of mentioned the fact that they have a very toxic relationship, and that is the honest truth right there. But while you have the characters trying to fix their relationship, they're then confronted by the Power Scroll, the Super Scroll. Now, luckily for our heroes, they do get some backup here, and that would be the Inhumans. And you kind of see a trend happening right here, where you have all these characters just popping in left and right out of nowhere. Good characters and bad characters who all appeared in the Fantastic Four comics, who have worked alongside our heroes or fought against our heroes. Like, we do see Namor arrive, and I kind of like this a lot because for Namor and Reed, there is a lot of bad blood between the two characters, but at the same time, they still have respect for one another. With Namor being there, is Namor right now just backing up our heroes as they're fighting against all these different types of super villains. But it's also Reed asking Namor to watch over Sue while he tries his best to figure out what exactly is going on here. Now, in the middle of the whole battle, you did have Doctor Doom appear. Now, when Doctor Doom appears, it's him telling the Human Torch, like, listen, I'm not on the side of Onslaught. Matter of fact, I came here to have a conversation with Reed Richards. But before we see that conversation actually happen, you have Reed being able to create a device to get rid of all the different projections or constructs that were created by, well, Onslaught. But here is the big catch, because for Reed, he believes at first that these constructs or projections came from Onslaught, which he is correct, but actually it came from Franklin Richards at first, but then altered by Onslaught. Now, while you do have Reed and Susan talking to one another, you have Johnny bring in Doctor Doom. And this is Doctor Doom saying, like, I want to help out the Fantastic Four when it comes to bringing down Onslaught, because he has Franklin Richards. And so as the book closes, you have all these different characters who fought alongside the Fantastic Four over the years, including Doctor Doom as well, as they get ready for their final battle against Onslaught. So we had just wrapped up the Avengers and also now the Fantastic Four, leading into the Heroes Reborn universe. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.